Everybody, thank you for being here. Good evening to all the people who are joining us electronically. We're glad you tuned in. Friends, City Council, good to see you. So this is a regular meeting of the City Council of the City of Waverly in Iowa. This is Monday, June 17th. It is 7 p.m. and this meeting is now called to order. Would you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Council, a proposed agenda has been prepared for you. If it is to your liking, may I have a motion?
Move approval of the agenda as presented.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? This is by voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? That passed unanimously. Welcome back. Eric Johnson is guest council person from Think Well Coffee downtown. Great to have you back. We'll call on you again at the end of the meeting if you have any comments. Council, you have in front of you the minutes prepared for you from our last meeting, which was June 3rd. If they are to your liking, may I have a motion?
I move approval of the minutes of the June 3rd meeting as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say, go ahead, councilperson.
Just for the record that I was here. My name's not on there.
Oh,
I didn't know how to.
no, you were certainly here, I remember that. Thank you for that. With that correction, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. And opposed? That passed unanimously. Now is the time for public comments for items not on the agenda. If you want to discuss some topic which is not on the agenda tonight, you have 5 minutes. Please address your comments to the entire council, not to any one person. And good to see you. Please identify yourself, then go ahead.
My name is Todd Smock. I live at 1900 East Bremer Avenue, right across from Dyke Implement. Thank you for letting me come up and speak with you, City Council and Mayor. I'd like to address the City Code 105.10.07 on the UTV ordinances on where we can drive them. Where I live, I'm landlocked. I have a nice UTV, just bought it this spring. With the ordinance, I'm landlocked. I can't leave my yard. Now I'm legal. I've got with the chief's officers and got the registration, all the right equipment, safety equipment, everything. According to the state code, I am a registered state code 321I-10. I am all registered vehicles, off-road utility vehicles, may be operated on an undivided 2-lane primary highway that is not part of an interstate road system over the most direct and accessible route between any of the following: secondary road on which such vehicles are authorized to operate under, and a city street on which other vehicles and which such vehicles are authorized to operate. I'm legal to ride on all the side streets, I know that. The ordinance says I can't ride on Highway 3 in front of my house, Bremer Avenue, and also you blocked the parkway. I guess I'm just asking some suggestions from the council here. I know the code, the state code, but you guys have the authorization to make your own. They give the cities that authorization. All I'm asking for is maybe a change in the ordinance or an exception so I can leave my yard, drive a half a mile west to 12th Street Northeast and go up by Bridle Spur, and I'll go back around and stay on all the city streets. Or I can get through GMT's parking lot to the parkway from my property and then drive down the parkway to 8th Street Southeast to where I can turn left or right at the Ball Diamonds and be on legal streets. I guess that's all, I'd like the council advisement on that. I've talked to the chief and he said, that's a council, that's an ordinance.
It is. Yeah, thank you. And because this is not on the agenda, we're not prepared to discuss or debate with you tonight.
Understand that.
But yeah, thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Anyone else rising to speak? Then we'll move to the consent calendar. This is a voice vote. Is there a motion to accept the entirety of the consent calendar?
I'll move approval of the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Thank you. And any discussion? I hear none. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That passed unanimously. We are now on to the next section. This is regular business. During regular business, if you wish to speak to an item, do me a favor and come up just before we're going to start talking about that. Stand by the microphone, only so I know to call on you, so I know who wants to speak. So we'll begin with number 1, a review of the Waverly Utilities 2023 audit. You have 2 minutes.
We can do this. It was a clean opinion. Can I just start with that and end with that? Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm Kelly Meyer. I'm the Director of Finance and Customer Services at Waverly Utilities. And tonight I am here to present the 2023 audit that was completed by Eide Bailey. And yes, 2 minutes probably is just fine. We received a clean opinion. That means that Eide Bailey considers our financials to be fairly presented in all material respects. And so that's always what we want to shoot for as a goal. I can walk through the audit with you, but we've done this before. The best thing I should tell you is to look at the management's discussion analysis. That section really is the 3-year comparison, and that...
Can you give us a page number on that?
I can,
4
just a
through
second.
11.
Thank you. 4 through 11.
Okay. So, management's could be on page 4. Management's discussion and analysis. It really is broken into sections, and this is where we, the utility, get to explain variances and more elaborate than really the audit goes into. So that section provides a 3-year comparison of the financials, including any variances, fund balances, capital assets, and debt activity. That following section is the actual financial statements. So a little bit of detail. For 2023, our operating revenues for the electric utility were $205,000 higher than 2022. We did take a rate increase of 3%. However, there was a decrease in the kilowatt hours sold, so that brought down the revenues. Our operating expenses decreased as well by $324,000. That also was due to those energy costs associated with the decreased sales. We ended the year with an increase of $1.1 million to our net position. That's after the transfer of cash to the City of Waverly. There was an increase of $3.76 million in our cash balance, and that's after debt service, capital purchases, and the cash transfer to the City of Waverly. One item that drove that increase was that we took out a bond for $4.5 million at the end of December, so that increased our cash. The 4th section of the financial statements are the footnotes. That just gives you additional information for the audit. We did implement the GASB 96 standard for the subscription-based information technology arrangements. We do hope that they stop giving us GASBs to implement, don't we, James?
We do.
We did implement them, but there was no impact for the 2022 because it's comparative statements, so there's no restatement of the prior year. The footnotes are the ones that follow, and that's just supplemental information that is mainly related to pensions as well as some financial trends for the utility. So the final section of the financials is where Eide Bailey's response to the government auditing standards, and another important thing is that there were no findings of material weaknesses in our internal controls. Iowa code also states that a municipal telecommunications utility must have separate books from the electric utility. We do that. You see it throughout the financials. But one thing that the auditors take a look at is whether or not the allocations are appropriate between the two utilities. And nothing was found with that either. So as for the financial discussion about Waverly Communications Utility, due to the competitive environment surrounding the utility, we aren't going to share a lot of information tonight. However, we can tell you that we currently have more than an 80% market share for residential and commercial customers, and we're adding customers every day. So that's a really good thing. And we at the utility would like to thank the community for their participation and support. And if you would like to have any additional information, particularly about the communications utility, feel free to stop by, talk to Kurt, Jeff, or myself. And really, that's about it. How far over was I?
Thank you.
Pretty close? Okay, thank you.
No,
Any questions?
I want to clarify for the people keeping score at home, that when the speaker said there's some material she didn't want to share, like she said, it's because we're competing with other companies, and so there's some things we don't necessarily want to
Right.
put out to the public, because that would be giving proprietary information.
Specifically for the communications.
Why did the sale of kilowatts go down?
So, a little bit warmer weather, we're really seeing it this year in that the weather is more mild, and I would say that that's really the issue, unless you have more to add. Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of a tough day to talk about mild weather, but
You know, it's been nice,
That's fine.
but it hurts the utility. But yeah.
Council, do you have any other questions? Please.
Where does the grant money come from? See, there's over 600,000.
So yes, so Waverly Communications Utility took out a NOFA 7 grant, and that is to expand its territory. And so we did receive grant funds for that. So as we earn those proceeds and have those costs associated with the grant, then we bring that into income.
Broadband.
Thanks, Bob. Yeah.
Since it's owned by the city, as profits seem to be good, is there any way that fees for citizens go down, or people who are using the services go down, or do you guys just stay at that top market rate, or what do you?
So you're kind of talking about budgeting and rates. So what we do every 2 years is we have a cost of service study. We bring an outside provider in that says, what do you think of our rates? How do we compare? Here are our expenses, here are our anticipated capital expenditures, and we get their feedback as to what we should do with rates. So we have some input, but we also rely upon an outside source that has knowledge of the industry.
So you're staying competitive with just the broader market?
Well, you know, it's hard to compete with Mid-American. You know, we're a small municipal utility, but if you compare us with others, I think that we're doing pretty well. I may not be the best person to speak to that, but yes.
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions?
I just want to take a moment to congratulate Kurt Atkins as the new general manager of the utilities. I think he'll do a wonderful job. He has been doing a wonderful job, and I think he will continue to do a wonderful job. So congratulations, Kurt.
Yes. All right. Based on my own experience with the utilities, based on cost and services, and especially customer service, I'm not surprised we have 80% market share. It's just that good. So, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That is a report, does not require action, so we'll move on to item 2, which is Resolution 24-109, approving the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus for the Waverly Volunteer Fire Department. Council, does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-109, a resolution approving purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, for the Volunteer Fire Department from Field Fire of Carroll, Iowa, for the purchase price of $34,815, which includes $4,815 above original quote.
Thank you.
Second.
Got it. Any discussion?
I had a question. What is the $335 7 times on the bill from Field Fire? Because we're getting 5 units, but there's something's charged 7 times.
Is that assembly, maybe?
I think it would almost have to be, we'll check on that, Brent, see what that is, because that's the second part of that invoice, but I think it's also almost got to be assembly.
Well, I wondered that too, but then why?
Are there 7 of them
We're
instead of
paying
5?
for assembly of 7 and we're buying 5.
Well, it could be 2 different items here. Again, I don't understand all the different letter codes, et cetera. I don't know, Kevin, do you have any knowledge of that?
I have no knowledge.
I mean, it's all Greek the way they write it down. You know, that's not true. It's all Greek the way they write it down, so.
I really don't have any input on what those charges are.
I mean, it's $335 a piece, so it's not a substantial amount of piece of
Right.
equipment.
Right.
How many charges are there on there?
There's 7.
7?
There's
So it's 5 units and there's 7 of this extra thing.
So
I'm
the 5
wondering,
units probably would have been the harnesses, would have been the packs themselves.
That's your gear.
and those are probably 7
4-part
tanks?
Kev, red M.
I still don't have any idea what they are.
Yeah, it's it says, what's it, red?
Red M.
Yeah, I'm wondering if that could be the tanks where you like have a couple that you can fill when they're
No,
not
it wouldn't,
used?
it wouldn't be the tanks, because
No?
this should be for just the packs themselves, just the
Oh,
harnesses.
is it maybe the mask?
I don't know if
I don't know
it'd
if you
be
have
the
like individual,
masks.
like if you don't want them being transformed between people?
Yeah, we have our own masks, so you're right there, but I'm not, I apologize, I have no idea.
Okay.
It says no case, 1 per box, assembly, 4-point Kevlar. I think that's all part of that same harness. Huh?
Yeah, I think so, because it's not actually on the invoice. The only
Yeah.
thing on the,
Yeah, this with the minor
that we're
equipment?
voting on is the 34,815, which are the 5
Right.
units.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure why we're not voting on the 2345,
Doing
but
the entire invoice. Okay.
Good point. Oh, the masks are by 7. It does say masks.
Just the masks, okay. But that's also not something that we're paying for, or, yeah, we're
it's
not
like we're
approving
just
that part.
buying that thing that's pictured.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Is that the
Kevin?
harness?
Well, it looks
I
like
don't know, I
It's
don't
the
have the
tank
picture, so
with-
is that what it is?
It's the tank with
yeah.
the harness attached.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think what you're seeing is you've got tanks that were budgeted at $30,000 and they came in a little bit higher. That's why it's on the agenda to be voted on tonight. The other assembly piece was within the budget for minor equipment as it moved forward.
Okay, so it's
That's why that one was
approved.
accepted. We're
Okay.
breaking out the separate
Gotcha.
invoice for what was slightly over.
Okay.
And normally, even in the resolutions, we don't put includes a $4,815. We don't even put that in usually. I'm not sure why we did, but we talk about it for being on the agenda because it's over budget. That's why, or else it would have been on consent calendar, because it's within. So the masks are within, the tanks were a bit over, that's why it got brought to you to vote on. Otherwise, the tanks and masks would have just ran to consent. So
Excellent.
those come out of, I believe, your minor equipment. Since it's not a major capital purchase for the masks, at $300 a piece, it's not a major purchase, so. It took a minute, had to go back and research quick, but that's
Glad I could
what you're
help you
looking at. That's what you're looking at, is the tanks.
Thanks for being there.
The other part is in a different section of the budget, so,
Okay.
Thank you, Jay.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm sorry we didn't have that quicker for you.
My feeling is that when these men and women volunteer to run into burning buildings, we should give them what they need.
Oh, absolutely, I'm
Yeah,
not disputing
yeah.
that at all.
That's
I
a good
just-
question,
I
what that
just didn't
was.
understand,
Yeah.
talking about the 34,000, and there was that other bid on that.
Yeah.
Just didn't
No,
understand.
that was an excellent question. Any other comments, questions, council? Are you ready to vote? All those, let's roll call vote. Carla?
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
That passed unanimously. Chief, please tell the firefighters thank you on our behalf.
I will. Thank you for your support.
Thanks, Ken.
Thanks, Kevin.
Item number 3, which is the third and final reading of ordinance 1145, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Waverly, Iowa, providing for rezoning of 801_803 7th Avenue Northwest from an R3 residential district to an R2 residential district, and amending the Waverly zoning map as provided by this ordinance, and amending the Waverly zoning map. Okay?
I will move approval of the third and final reading of ordinance 1145, an ordinance amending the zoning ordinance of the city of Waverly, Iowa, providing for rezoning of 108-803, or 801-803 7th Avenue Northwest from R3 Residential District to R2 Residential District, and amending the Waverly zoning map as provided by this ordinance and amending the Waverly zoning map.
Second.
Any discussion? I believe this is a family who wants to put up a single dwelling house. Any discussion? Carla, let's have a vote.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
Rathe?
Yes.
Wolff?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, taking us to number 4. This will be the second reading of ordinance 1146 and setting a public hearing to rezone 1901-1903 and 1951-1953 3rd Street Southwest from an R3 residential district to R2 residential district and amending the Waverly zoning map. Would we have a motion?
I'll move approval of the second reading of ordinance 1146 to rezone 1901, 1903, and 1951, 1953 3rd Street Southwest from R3 Residential District to R2 Residential District and amending the Waverly zoning map and setting a public hearing for July 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall.
Second.
Thank you. Any more discussion? This is Oak Circle, right? We're going to put up some houses?
I believe that. Yep, Oakwood Circle. Yes, sir.
Yep.
I just had a question about all of the quitclaim deeds
yeah.
and the paperwork that went in with that. Is
Yeah,
that
yeah.
to release each other from the bounds of the
Yeah, this is
covenants
the
for the
HOA
condo
that was getting-
association? Okay.
The insurance became an issue.
No, I remember that. I
Okay.
just wasn't expecting however many copies of a,
It's a lot of paperwork.
It's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah.
but I figured it had to do with releasing everyone from their agreements to each other, basically. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Still all friendly neighbors, just fixing
Yep.
this one problem.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
Rathe?
Yes.
Wolff?
Yes.
Bergen?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
That passed unanimously, taking us to item 5. This is the first reading of ordinance 1148 and setting a public hearing to rezone 725_729 2nd Avenue Northeast from R1 Residential District to an R2 Residential District. Is there a motion?
Move to approve the first reading of ordinance 1148, an ordinance amending the municipal code of ordinances by rezoning 725_729 2nd Avenue Northeast from R1 Residential District to R2 Residential District and setting a public hearing for July 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall.
Second.
Thank you, that's on the table. We have a speaker. Bo, would you identify yourself?
My name's Bo Buchholz. I'm here in representation of the entity that owns 725, 729. I just wanted to give a brief background. This is an existing duplex. I think it's been there decades. It's R1. The oddity is it is R1. It probably should be R2. It's next door to other duplexes across the street from, I think, a fourplex. Our ultimate goal is we will eventually be coming back to sever this into separate units, just like the one that you guys just approved. So just wanted to provide that background and happy to answer any questions.
How was this, and this goes beyond, before your time more than likely, but was at one time multifamily housing permitted in R1 zoned property? Or had this been R2 and then was rezoned to R1 and they're grandfathered in? No idea.
I presume grandfathered in.
Okay.
Across the street is all R2 because that's the older part of town, which they just mass R2 zone. So
Okay.
I think they were just on a dividing line for whatever reason.
So Bo, it now has one owner and it's going to get separated so that each person owns?
Correct.
Is that-
So it could be two separate units. If we'd want to sell one off, one owner could own one side, one owner could own the other, like a condo, like a mini condo.
Okay. Is it a rental property now? Or
It is, it
Okay.
is, yep.
But on the planned use, you said the future use is intended to be a rented duplex.
It's existing, it's an
Right.
existing rental duplex.
I know, and then it says, currently a rented duplex and future use is intended to be a rented duplex.
no immediate intent to sell, so it'll still be a rented property. It'll still be physically a duplex, but it'll be two separate units. The structure is still called a duplex. It's just not gonna have, it's gonna be able to be divisible to two separate owners.
There are no short-term plans to sell,
Correct.
but you want that option in the future at
Correct.
some point.
Correct, yep, precisely.
All right, so I'm still just a little bit fuzzy on this, if you could help me on it. It's currently zoned R1. And what you're saying is if we do not rezone it to R2, you will not be able to sell them as separate units.
Correct. We cannot we cannot have attached dwellings as separate single units unless it's in R2.
Okay, and it would lose whatever grandfathering it had if you were going to sell them as separate units?
No.
Because it's not, currently, it's in an R1 neighborhood, or R1 zoning.
Sure.
So I guess I'm trying to grasp, what's the reason for rezoning it to R2?
It has to be R2 for us to be able to do that next step. So just like you divided the two condos in item 4, we're going to do that same exact process, but you cannot do that process in an R1. It has to be an R2 zone.
So it's a non-conforming use right now. It should be.
Correct.
In R2.
Correct.
And
It's
still
an
R1
oddity
from
right now.
forward.
So if,
We're correcting the zoning it should have had to start with.
and if they go through with the plans with what they wanted to do, that basically would terminate their grandfathering? Because it's, right now, yes, they are grandfathered in, it's a non-conforming use, but they're grandfathered in. I mean, we're not gonna make them separate the two buildings because it's in an R1.
But if you change it, do you need to be grandfathered? Because it's then,
The grandfather would be irrelevant at that
Yeah.
point because you're R2 then. Yep, yep.
I
So
have no
duplexes-
objection to doing this, I'm just trying to wrap my head around why we're doing it.
So we can split
duplexes
it.
typically are
Yeah, but you can't,
R1 is single-family
Yeah.
home, so you have to have an R2 designation or more to be a duplex.
It can't be a duplex or attached homes. So you have to do it for either use.
so you would not be able to give clear title to it if it were not
It's
rezoned?
No, it's grandfathered in, so it could be used as is.
I wouldn't be able to sell the left half if it's R1.
Right.
The city would not approve my survey and subdivision unless it's R2.
And
Okay.
keep in mind that they also made sure that the building inspector has made it, that it's appropriate to divide at some point. So we wouldn't even go through this process unless it could be divided. Because the services are all separate and the firewall is between the two sides.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the only hesitancy that I would have is that we'll have one lot that's zoned as R2 in the middle of all this other property that's zoned as R1. If at some point somebody wants to come in, tear that building down and put up another duplex or something, they can do that without any approval from the council. But
So-
that might be a problem that really,
but there's an
Is-
apartment building across the street.
well, and there's
Duplex
another
next to it.
duplex
There's a
right next to
duplex
it.
Yeah, there's
next
another
door,
du-
and there's a duplex
Yeah.
2 doors down. It is an oddity that this area probably should be R2 in totality, but yeah. But understandable if it was out on an island.
It's the same thing as the other property that's up in the northwest, where all those properties got kind of mixed together. This is going to be the similar, it's the borderline between the R2 and the R1.
Yeah, I think Second Avenue, for whatever reason, was that dividing line, and, yeah.
Yeah. I haven't heard anyone, communicating any reservations to me about it, any of the surrounding landowners or property owners. And I would think that if they had an issue, I would have heard
Oh, yeah.
about it, so.
And I think the long-term goal is it does provide some lower-cost housing options. So if people do want to have a lower-cost option, you're going to have a shared wall, but you have your own place to buy on your own too, so.
Right.
Any more questions for Bo?
Not from me.
Thank you very much.
Counselor. City Council, I want to draw your attention to the document, the ordinance 1148. And I want you to see that in the second line, it says rezoning of 715, and that should be 725. So I'm going to call that a typo, not a, we have to do the whole thing over again. But I'm just calling that to your attention.
In the ordinance.
Yeah, in the ordinance itself.
Yeah, the second line.
Yep.
out there, yeah.
Okay, any more discussion? Madam City Clerk, would you take us through a vote?
Kangas.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which brings us to item 6. This is the first reading of ordinance 1149 and setting a public hearing to rezone parcel I, currently a part of parcel ID 0533300017, from A1 Agricultural District to M1 Light Industrial District. Is there a motion?
I'll move approval of the first reading of ordinance 1149, an ordinance amending the municipal code of ordinances by rezoning parcel I, currently a part of parcel ID 0533300017, from A1 Agricultural District to M1 Light Industrial District, and setting a public hearing for July 1st, 2024 at 7 p.m. in the council chambers at City Hall.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion?
So I was looking at this and noticing there's that one little property in the middle of this ag land. Is that, like, is there a house in the middle of an agricultural zone? Or are they an R1? And I wondered if we've heard from those property owners about this change at all yet. Have they been notified?
They would have been notified when the planning and zoning considered it.
Okay.
I can tell you, yes, they were notified. I believe that's kind of the former homestead of that agricultural land.
Yeah, that's what I figured. Okay. I mean, do we know anything about what kind of
Actually,
traffic's going to be generated on that corner across from the new school driveway, or?
I don't know that it was part of the farmstead.
Well, I don't,
It was built on the edge of the road when there wasn't anything in that area.
I believe he
Okay.
came to the planning and
And this
zoning
said
meeting.
this is going to be
so-
some sort of repair
Yeah, I
auto
believe-
service
well,
center?
I believe Dale's is
Do we
moving
know
out there.
anything about?
I believe Dale's is
Oh,
moving out there.
okay.
They're a little landlocked where they are.
So now, not a ton of traffic.
Right. Okay.
And it seems to fit the future land use of commercial industrial mix.
So when we talk about the 2-mile rule, the county ignores that and lets people put acreages all over. This was happening way a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what happens eventually. And now you have this household stuck in the middle of what should be commercial space rolling through.
Gotcha.
So as it continues to expand, you're gonna hit more and more of these as that continues to pop up, so.
And I think the future land use actually shows that property as being all commercial industrial mix.
Okay. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, council, you have any more questions or discussion? This is your first reading. You appear ready to vote, so I'll call on Carla.
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which brings us to item 7. This is the first reading of ordinance 1150. An ordinance amending the Waverly Code, section 105.4.10, by adding subsection 60. Can I have a motion, please?
I will move approval of the first reading of ordinance 1150 and ordinance amending Waverly Code section 105.4.10 by adding subsection 60.
Second.
Thank you. So this is no parking on the north side there by Pizza Ranch. I see no one rising to discuss to this. No one rising? Okay, any discussion?
I'll just point out that we did get an email from
Oh, thank you.
Tandy DeWater, who Julie and I had met with a few weeks ago. She resides in the apartment building, and she'd wanted to come to the meeting but couldn't, so she sent in some comments.
Yes, I should have asked Carla about that. That's my bad.
It's
So-
not a public hearing though, sir, so we
No,
don't
so I just
do
wanted to
that.
make sure people saw that.
Yeah, so we have it. She's talking about speeding. She's talking about, and making a really good point that Dr. Rathe made at our last meeting, that renters have the same rights as landowners. So we have one comment from someone who couldn't be here. Any other discussion?
I suppose my only comment is, I think that when this area was platted out, the reason they made this road, shall we say, wiggly, was to slow down the traffic. And I think that that's a laudable goal. I think that when the planners put the area together, I think their idea was that more people would be coming out along 3rd Avenue to the north, where that is a nice straight road. And I believe that the planners were hoping that that's the direction the traffic would be encouraged to go. And that's kind of why they put this wiggly bend in there. I am concerned about safety. I still of the opinion that I want to slow down traffic on this road. And I understand that there are a lot of safety concerns. And that this is kind of a narrow neck of the bottle. But yeah, I'm still of the same opinion that the goal of the planners was to slow down traffic on this road.
I think that we're all about safety. We want to slow down the traffic. I'm not sure having cars parked there is a way to, a safe way to slow down traffic. I think we need to finish this thing and then hand the problem over to Chief. Any other discussion? You're on the first reading of 1150.
Did anybody go and drive over there after our last meeting? I went right over, I saw Mr. Jones driving right past him. There were cars on both sides of the street and I drove through and it didn't seem like it was like a crazy impassable. So I'm kind of with Mr. Birgen about if they intended this and you can drive through there, doesn't seem like it's an undoable. Yeah, you can drive through there okay, but.
Well, it depends on the time of day.
I would certainly say that when there's a school bus in there, it kind of stops a lot. It would be a very much a bottleneck.
Yeah,
But-
or a garbage truck.
Or a garbage truck, yes.
And
I
remember,
have
we
to
got
say that-
51 signatures on a petition from neighbors.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Julie, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
My initial thought when this first came up was, gosh, I didn't realize that was a problem area, other than you just want to be careful when you're driving through there. But that 45 minutes that Dr. Rathe and I stood in the driveway there talking to the residents, there were a lot of cars that came tearing through there. And
That
I
was
think
like,
it is a safety
what,
concern.
5:30 at night on a weeknight?
Yeah.
Like, or a Friday, I can't remember.
Yeah. So I agree with Brian that I think we want to keep this on our radar in terms of the safety issue. I'm more supportive of the one-sided parking with us changing it to the north side being restricted. Because I think that kind of serves double duty, clears the space for garbage and mail, and hopefully will help keep things under control too.
Any other discussion? Okay, this will be a roll call vote. This is the first reading of 1150.
Rathe?
Yes.
Wolff?
Yes.
Birgen?
No.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
That was 6-1, it passes. That takes us to 8. Resolution 24-110, this is a resolution approving change order number 5 from Mott Construction of Sumner, Iowa for the Parks Maintenance Building Remodel Phase 2. Can I have a motion, please?
I'll move to approve Resolution 24-110, a resolution approving change number 4 from Mott Construction of Sumner, Iowa for an increased amount of $7,598.69 for the Parks Maintenance Building Remodel Phase 2.
Second.
Thank you. We're on the table. Any discussion?
I assume that should be change order number 4, but I didn't want to add anything to what was printed, so.
Yeah.
You can, they're just proposed.
Okay, change order number 4 then.
Oh.
It is 5 on the
Number
resolution.
5.
What is it? It says change order number 4 on number 5.
Should be number 5.
Yeah, it should be number 5.
That's a lot of
All right, so there's all kinds of issues. I'm not reading any more of these tonight.
Well, you saw the report, these are 70-year-old blocks,
Yeah.
and they try to anchor in, it disintegrated, and once you start into a project, you have to make these repairs. That's why they have no idea going into some of this, that's gonna happen. Nobody's tapping the blocks with a hammer hoping it stays together, so, we're glad it's just a small amount, really. It's, going along very well overall, I think we're still within budget, and so I think we're in good shape.
well, now is the right time to find this out rather than, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Any more discussion? City Clerk, could you lead us through a vote?
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, so we can move on to item 9, which is Resolution 24-111, a resolution setting bid and letting date and setting a public hearing for the tail race wall removal project. Can I have a motion?
I will move approval of Resolution 24-111, a resolution setting a bid letting date for Tuesday, July 2nd, 2024, and setting a public hearing for July 15th, 2024, at 7 p.m. in the City Council chambers at City Hall for the review of the plan specifications, form of contract, and estimated cost of the tail race wall removal project.
Second.
Thank you. It's on the table. I'll be first to admit I had to look up what a tail race wall was, but they're cool.
We've been talking about it for a while, so.
Okay.
I did mention, Councilperson Birgen may enjoy this. I saw a snapping turtle down next to the
yep.
tail race wall about a week ago as I was crossing the Bremer
Yep.
Avenue Bridge. Hopefully he will find some other place to snap at young geese or whatever they eat, so.
Hoping they eat mussels.
That would be nice.
That'll help the removal process.
Yeah, well, even the endangered ones,
You don't know the difference, it's okay.
Yes.
They all taste the same.
they all taste the same.
Any more discussion? Carla, could you run us through a vote?
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, thank you. That means we can move on to number 10, Resolution 24-112. This is a resolution approving a Sourcewell quote for the purchase of material cold storage building from Clearspan of Glastonbury, Connecticut. But none of them are here, they're not going to know I mispronounced it.
I will move approval of Resolution 24-112, a resolution approving a Sourcewell quote for the purchase of a material/cold storage building from Clearspan of Glastonbury, Connecticut, for a purchase price of $140,059.83.
Second.
Thank you, we're on the table. And just for the folks keeping score at home, cold storage, I understand, does not mean we're refrigerating it, we're just not heating it, right? So it's really dry storage, might be.
It's a better use of the word.
Yeah.
You're correct.
I was wondering.
Justin, do you want to say anything about your dry storage place?
We've exhausted a lot of options with looking at this. Actually, this is the same company that built the existing building that has a salt storage out there in the project in 2014. So basically, it is an identical building, it's just going to have a dividing wall. We're looking at options right now for walls, trying to be most cost effective. But basically, they mount these directly on the concrete blocks that you see from Kroll, those extra ones. They have multiple ways they mount these buildings.
Now, what's the process for installation? Are they installing it themselves, or are they just shipping it out and we're installing it?
This includes installation of the building.
Okay.
Will you put the concrete work out for bid?
Yes.
Yes.
And this will be located by Public Works, right?
It'll be north of the existing salt shed. There's actually an area, when the building was originally built, it was designed to have this building on it. And it was cut due to budget restraints or whatever it was. And it's basically primary growth. They actually did geotech surveys out there as well in preparation for this.
What are you going to put in it? In the building?
Right now, our water main break materials, salt, the sand and rock are sitting down at Parks Buildings.
Okay.
The old salt shed down there.
Yeah.
And with the bridge going out, we're gonna have to have it on both sides anyways, and that will be in half of it. And then the other half is, we have garbage, a lot of garbage cans, carts, bins, stuff that sits inside right now at the recycling center, and that's heated area. And there's a lot more valuable things to be put in the heated area than garbage cans, but we cannot leave them outside.
Any more discussion? You appear ready to vote? Madam City Clerk.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, which allows us to move on to item 11, Resolution 24113. A resolution approving a quote from Tetro Electric Incorporated for purchase and installation of an RRFB, known as Blinky Lights, crossing on the east leg of the Cedar River Parkway and 8th Street Southeast intersection. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-113, a resolution approving a quote from Tetro Electric Incorporated for purchase and installation of an RRFB crossing on the east leg of the Cedar River Parkway and 8th Street Southeast intersection for the amount of $15,800.
Second.
Thank you. We're on the table. Any discussion?
I just have a general question, not about this particular project, but we had budgeted and bonded for $150,000 for this project. When everything is said and done, it'll probably be less than $30,000 that we'll spend. We also, a couple items back when we were approving the tail race removal, we had budgeted $300,000 for that, and the estimated cost of that was just a little over $160,000. So there's $140,000 there. Now, this is money that we bonded for. This is money, as I understand it, is actually sitting in an account at the bank somewhere. What happens to that money when these projects are completed and those funds are, fund number 375 and 376 are no longer necessary? Do those funds get transferred into the building, whatever we were talking about, the building improvements fund, or what happens to that money? Is there a problem since we budgeted
No.
and bonded for it, but we're not spending it for those projects?
Absolutely not. We have a certain amount of time we have to spend the proceeds, whether it's for purchases, construction, there's certain windows of time you have to spend it within. You have choices in what you can do with that funding, because at the time, we were looking at the tail race, we were looking at erosion control, which proved to be not effective, so we did not spend that money. And again, we were looking at a larger project on the parkway than it turned out to be, so we had the best intent of having it. You can either use that to pay down your debt with this current bond as it sits, or if there's another project of like style or similar to what you could have bonded for, you can reallocate it to that instead of bonding again going forward. And as we look at this, once we know, have a better idea of what we have remaining, we will look at where the other projects that come in, they may not be under budget. And so once that nets out, you'll have a dollar amount, and then we will either apply that towards debt, or we will put it towards a project that we may do next year and not borrow for it again. Engineering is something we'll be looking at, whether it's for street projects, there's other items we can use it for. Once we have a lot of this finished, so in the fall, we do a lot of infrastructure planning with the council, we'll have a much better idea how much money we're looking at, future projects coming, what can be utilized for, what it can't be, because it's limited. And so that's how we'll address that. But if there's not a project that fits, we can always choose to put it back towards debt itself and then lessen that debt levy at some point. We don't do it often because then your debt starts to do this. Nobody likes that. You want to keep that level so it's not a surprise. But there is a lot of projects on the horizon that are coming. Odds are it'll be utilized for that, but that's once we've netted out everything else along the way. And we still have other projects to finish from equipment purchases and items that we're also bonded for.
Okay, great. Thank you for that. I appreciate the explanation.
Yes, sir.
Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk, could you run us through a vote?
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Myers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, bringing us to number 12. This is Resolution 24114, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 Freightliner 108 SD cab and chassis for a dump truck and dump body and snowplow accessories from Don's Truck Sales Incorporated. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-114, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a 2025 Freightliner 108 SD cab and chassis for a dump truck for $121,595 and dump body and snowplow accessories for $138,855 from Don's Truck Sales Incorporated of Fairbank, Iowa, for the net price of $215,450, including a $45,000 trade-in allowance of a 2012 Freightliner M2 dump truck and snow equipment.
Second.
All righty, you've got it on the table. I want to, for the folks keeping score back home, this is a lot of money. I want to remind everyone, this is from enterprise funds, not the general budget. So it's not that we're getting a dump truck instead of a pool. These are different funds, and you can't mix and mingle them like that. So this is enterprise money, and we're looking to buy a truck. And do you have any discussion or questions, friends?
Justin, I just had a question. Number one, I thought maybe you'd give us a picture, so I was a little disappointed. Number two, same with the next agenda item. I did have a question though on, you said in the summary, which I appreciated, said the bid from Don's Truck Sales was not the low bid, but it's the recommended bid. Something about they were going to charge for the trade-in use. Could you explain that?
So the chassis will come in before the dump box and the other equipment's ready. So at that point, Don's is expecting his trade-in for the rest of the equipment. So we have that time period where it is unknown how long it'll take for that other equipment to get ready to goes to other vendor. And we used to run into the same problem with a lot of the other equipment we always used to bid out cab and chassis and the equipment separate, but we started running into these problems. So now, going forward, we'll try to bid them together because they're all as one unit. It's basically primarily just because of a dealership situation with not being able to sell a certain chassis and separate from the equipment, they can't sell it like this. They're not a dealer for that chassis. So that was the difference, and there was a charge for every month that we would have that trade until, if we wanted to keep it from Don's. So there was like basically a rental, because they're guaranteeing it up to that date, delivery of January, or whatever it was. So from then on until we received the equipment, we were paying a monthly charge.
So you would get the truck from Don's.
Yeah.
And then you would take it over to Tri-State to be outfitted, and right in their bid, it says they 90 to 120 days it could take them. Meanwhile, Don's wants that trade in that 120 days, and they're charging.
Right.
We've been caught in pinches before with other pickups or other vehicles with that situation, and 90 to 120 days is pretty generous. I mean, it's optimistic.
I'd be very surprised if it's done in that time frame.
Gotcha.
And this is part of our regular rotation of vehicles.
This one's actually was put off one more year. We usually try to do, it's a 2012, we usually try to do it 10 to 11 years, and this one has needed some attention the last few years.
Okay.
But it's good to see it put on the road.
Any other discussion, friends? Are you ready to vote? Carla?
Kangas,
Yes.
Meyers,
Yes.
Rathe,
Yes.
Wolff,
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, so let's move on to item 13. This is Resolution 24-115, a resolution approving the purchase of a 2025 Freightliner M2 New Way 29 cubic yard automated side load refuse packer, I think commonly called a garbage truck.
I will move approval of Resolution 24-115, a resolution approving purchase of a 2025 Freightliner M2 New Way 29 cubic yard automated side load refuse packer from Elliott Equipment of Grimes, Iowa, for the purchase price of $332,729 with the following options: 5-year 150-mile engine extended warranty for $2,975, and 5-year unlimited mile transmission extended warranty for $1,096, for a total purchase price of $336,800, less the $95,000 trade-in allowance and additional equipment, for a total purchase price of $242,500.
Second.
Thank you. All righty, so
Did I read something wrong? Okay.
got a garbage truck on. Maybe Justin, in lieu of photos, you could give us rides when they come in? So Justin was explaining to me,
In the cab, not the back, yeah.
Justin was explaining to me earlier that when a garbage trucks get old, it graduates and becomes a recycling truck, because they only run half as much. So. I
So
thought
that's
that was cool.
recycling in practice.
It is, yes. Indeed.
Okay.
Approximately how many miles are on the 2016?
I want to say right around 100,000. a little over. I can't remember exactly. I think when I brought him to the council, it was just under 100,000.
Okay.
Budget time.
We kind of gauge a lot of those in hours or miles because they're hard miles, start, stop, start, stop. Yeah, they take a pretty good beating. We did have other bids that came in lower, but they were not responsible bids. They did not meet the spec requirements. So when you look at that, that's why we're not considering those. They're a couple cubic yards smaller and they're not going to haul as much, more trips. It's more expensive in the end. So they did not meet spec. And so the best responsible bid was the Elliott equipment.
And again, this is all enterprise funds, not general budget.
Correct.
Thank you for mentioning that. So I was going to say something if you didn't, so.
Any other discussion? Madam City Clerk?
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
That was unanimous, which will allow us to move on to item 14. Resolution 24116. This is a resolution approving the purchase of a tandem axle cab and chassis with combination catch basin sewer and high-pressure cleaner with a telescoping boom. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24-116, a resolution approving purchase of a tandem axle cab and chassis with the combination catch basin sewer and high-pressure cleaner with telescoping boom from Elliott Equipment of Grimes, Iowa for $513,297, less trade-in of $165,000 for a purchase price of $348,297.
Second.
It's on the table. So this is a thing that cleans the sewers, and they have a rotation plan set up so that all the sewers are cleaned once every 5 years. Asking why it's important to have clean sewers, I learned that not clean sewers back up. And no citizen wants that.
That's correct.
Neither do we want to be responsible for backup in someone's house.
Right.
So replacing the equipment is important. Justin, do you want to add anything?
Unless there's
So how many different places are there that you go in and clean it? How many access points? I mean, you do it every 5 years.
There's 800 manholes in town, I believe. Just over.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that'd be about 160 per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we have to clean 83 or 85,000 feet of sewer main a year to keep up on that 5-year rotation.
And you do that year round?
If weather allows, usually there's a downtime in January, February when it's cold. You know, these trucks, they have a cold weather mode on them, but usually you just utilize that whenever it's emergency situations when you're out on unclogging backups for get called out. But most of the time it's just warm weather options.
Okay, again, this is enterprise money, not tax money. So, is there any more discussion? You appear ready to buy a sewer cleaner. Carla, could you run us through a vote?
Rathe.
Yes.
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
That unanimous, number 15. Resolution 24117. This is a resolution approving a proposal and standard fee schedule for HRS surveying for the site survey for the alley between 4th Street Northwest and 5th Street Northwest. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of Resolution 24117, the resolution approving a proposal and standard fee schedule for HRS surveying of Waverly, Iowa for the site survey for the alley between 4th Street Northwest and 5th Street Northwest for $3,500.
Second.
Thank you. We're on the table. Any discussion?
I'm trying to zero in on where that is. It's behind the Bremer County Historical Society building, running back through there. I'm surprised we can still find some alleys that we haven't redone, but they must be out there.
Quite a few yet. Yep, there's quite a few yet.
Any more discussion or questions? Carla?
Wolff.
Yes.
Birgen.
Yes.
Drenkow.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Kangas.
Yes.
Meyers.
Yes.
Rathe.
Yes.
That passed unanimously, so let's go on to number 16. This is Resolution 24118, a resolution accepting the asphalt patching spring 2024 project as complete and approving pay estimate number 1 as the final payment to Klusner Construction Incorporated of Farley, Iowa. Is there a motion, please?
I move to approve Resolution 24-118, a resolution accepting the asphalt patching spring 2024 project as completed or is complete and approving pay estimate number 1 in the amount of $19,183.13 as the final payment to Klusner Construction Incorporated of Farley, Iowa.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? None? Are you ready to vote? Carla?
Birgen?
Yes.
Drenkow?
Yes.
Jones?
Yes.
Kangas?
Yes.
Meyers?
Yes.
Rathe?
Yes.
Wolff?
Yes.
That passed unanimously. So let's move on to item 17, my favorite. These are the mayoral appointments. Can I have a motion?
I'll move approval of the mayoral appointments as stated in the agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Sneaky, but thank you. These are mostly reappointments of people we're very thankful are willing to serve on these commissions. Any discussions? You've got their applications in front of you. Any discussions or questions of any kind? This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? That passed unanimously. Item 18, a proposal to cancel the June 24, 2024 study session meeting. Can I have a motion? You gonna let this die?
I guess I'll move that we cancel the June 24th, 2024 study session.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you.
Do we have nothing to discuss?
We don't have anything to discuss, and there hasn't really been any issues brought forward, other than the recent UTV issue, if you want to talk about that, I guess, but we did not have anything prepared to discuss, which quite often we do cancel the June study session in the summer. It's just one of those items where, as we've sent out a lot of things going forward, we just don't have as much to talk about in the summer.
June and July both tend to be.
Kind of be, yeah, July is possible too, unless something comes up, but
I'm voting no, because I gotta be here for historical preservation.
If you gotta be here.
I'm gonna be here for one, I'll be here for both.
Well, I find it hard this group can't find something to talk about for an hour.
I didn't say you don't have things to talk about. We're not aware of anything you want to talk about and haven't prepared anything for that matter, so.
We have to put out a
It's the agenda
formal
problem.
agenda so
Yeah.
that we can talk about it. That's what has to be.
How about council talks about stuff? Maybe not quite
I don't think Iowa code would allow us to get by
It's a little broad, it's a little broad range, so.
All right, are you ready to vote?
Sure.
This is a voice vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
Aye.
That passed almost unanimously. You have in front of you reports from boards and commissions. Anyone have any questions? Human Equity and Diversity, I'd pull up, they're having a scavenger hunt this month. That looked like fun to me. Okay, none? James, you got any oh,
I'm sorry. I have one question that I did not find in the Human Equity and Diversity minutes. Where do we find the dates and locations of all of the block parties?
I got those by emailing Jen Wolff and asking her very nicely to send them to me.
Which I can do to everybody if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
James, staff updates?
Just a few, sir.
With city, on the holiday on Wednesday, we're having a double route on Thursday, so if your garbage pickup is Wednesday, it's going to be Thursday. And that's just garbage only this week.
I found out earlier or late last week, I guess it was actually, that we were fortunate enough to receive 3 different grants from the Bremer County Community Foundation. So the first one for $2,000 is for a Coleman Park power upgrade. So that's going to be adding some more power there, more 20 amps and some 50 amps as well. The second was for $4,400 for helping out with Jewel Park upgrades there. We lost a slide in the last year and a half or so there. That's off the equipment. We're planning on replacing that with a climbing structure. And then we're also going to replace the basketball hoop with one of the newer adjustable hoops. And then the last one was for the Greater Waverly Municipal Band, $2,250. That will cover 5 years of copyright membership fees, and then also allow them to pay a stipend to their soloists that come out for the performances. So thank you to the Bremer County Community Foundation for all of those.
Good. Jewel Park, is that on 9th Street, like northwest? Okay.
Yep.
That's all we have tonight, sir.
All right, let's go to council comments. Let's start with Councilperson Birgen.
So the first thing I wanted to mention is something that came up at our previous meeting, and that is kind of a refresher about Robert's rules. So there was a comment about something, if it got voted down, we couldn't bring it back within 1 year. And it is true that if something is voted down, anyone who voted for it can't bring it back for another year. But anyone who votes against a motion has the opportunity to bring it back immediately. If you ever watch federal government, that's why a lot of times the speaker...
On the winning side of the issue.
Right, correct, anyone on the winning side. So if a motion is defeated,
right,
anyone who votes against it can bring it back. Right. So just kind of, there was some discussion about it not being able to be brought back, and that's only for the people on the losing side. So if someone votes for something that's voted down, they can't bring it back. But anyone who votes against it can bring it back. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that. Let's see, another thing, I was at the block party in the southeast historical section of Waverly on June 9th. We had a good turnout. We had a couple of council people there as well, so glad to see those happening. And anyone who wants to discuss city council business, I will be at the Wooden Foot after the city council meeting.
Thank you. Councilperson Jones.
Nothing.
Councilperson Meyers.
I had a friend who lives in Cedar Falls reach out to me last week and wanted to let me know that she had heard so many wonderful things about the Waverly Dog Park, so she brought her grand dog up here one day last week, and she said, I just can't believe what an amazing facility that is. So kudos to the organizers and those who maintain that.
Thank you. Councilperson Kangas.
Nothing for me tonight.
Thank you. Councilperson Drenkow.
Well, earlier in the meeting, we approved a pay request for MGA for work on the golf course clubhouse plans. I don't recall seeing anything in the last few meetings about work on the swimming pool. I assume that the engineering firm that we engaged is doing their thing, doing their engineering stuff. I was just wondering if it would be possible, maybe at the next meeting that we have, which would be July 1st, just to get some kind of an update on where we're at with those plans. My understanding is since the swimming pool didn't open, the engineering firm must have decided that it was non-salvageable. But I did not get a report that that's in fact the case. And I'm always a little nervous to make sure that we have our plans in place before we get too close to the election date, so that we're not being rushed in being able to review the plans as a council and make an informed decision on whether we approve those plans or not. So I don't want to put pressure on anybody to do things that are not in their normal course of proceeding with this, but I personally would like to have an update on it. If we don't do it as a council, maybe that can just be done to me individually.
I can assure you that staff is working very hard on that, but I'm going to let James elaborate.
We don't need to do anything
place to
tonight.
do it, actually. We'll have something for you July 1st.
Okay.
Can I put in on that? Is there a time frame that we have to make an approval to put something on the ballot in November?
Later this year, I know there is a deadline you'll have to hit.
Deadlines?
August 28th.
So really, we probably need that July study session
I'm not gonna wait that long. We'll have something
To have-
before
to-
that.
to have- to
They're
have
very
us
close to
really
getting it
look at
done.
it.
The full report that was talked about, the cost to possibly remodel, which is awful, the cost of the new pool we're working through. So that's the thing, we're not doing anything new here.
No,
This
I
is
was
taking all the
just
information that-
thinking the July one would be a good time as far as to dedicate just to that.
We're gonna be before that, that's gonna be too late. So, they're working on getting a final rendition of what this would look like, based on everything that the public put in during MSA's conversations, asking for a number of different things. You're limited in what you can and can't do, and so it has to be set up in a certain way so it flows correctly. So we're very close to getting that finalized, so I can come to you to see similar to the golf course, here's a rendition of what we believe it'll look like, and you'll have that opportunity, so.
If that comes to us sometime at a July meeting and is not necessarily ready to go on July 1st, I personally wouldn't have a problem waiting until it's ready to be presented, rather than, have to present it and then 2 weeks later present it again.
It'll be
So,
ready.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you. Councilperson Rathe.
Nothing.
Councilperson Wolff.
I will be available at Get Roasted tomorrow from 10:30 to 12 o'clock to discuss city council business.
Excellent. So, guest councilperson, what do you got for comments today?
Thank you for having me here and for the invite. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I have 2 items. Councilperson Drenkow just set the table for me here and bring to you an article from today's Minneapolis Star-Tribune about suburbs in the Twin Cities face expensive repairs and replacement costs as mid-century pools age. And it talks about the number of the suburbs, and the terrible financial burden of running the pool at a loss, and what that's costing, and how the cost of running the pool is rapidly accelerating. Also talks about replacement and repair costs. And I think council and staff, you will find this interesting, but for the viewing public, it just emphasizes it's not just us. It's all the towns with these mid-century pools. And I know when I read mid-century, I thought 1800s, but it's in fact just 50 years ago. Second item is I'd like to thank Bill for his service. This is Bill's last meeting at City Council. I don't know what you're going to do with your Monday nights after this, but we'll try to help you find something. Bill has been Director of Economic Development and City Attorney for some time now, and thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
And we'll miss you. Happy retirement.
Appreciate it.
He can watch us on TV.
You can watch this on TV.
From the comfort of his own home.
In the comfort of his own home.
And make comments he wouldn't normally. That being the entire agenda, I am prepared to hear a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second. All those, any discussion? Of course not. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? Waverly City Council, we are adjourned.